So actually now we will have a little discussion here between the group. I have one question for all of you that I'd like each one of you to think about or to say is, what do you think are the key things that need to happen to enable farmers to reduce their nutrient runoff substantially and still be competitive? I mean, that is the theme of today, and I think a lot of you have addressed it in one way or another, but maybe just in a few sentences from your perspective and the experience you've had so far, for example, Baltic deal.
Okay. I think that the knowledge transfer and advisory is the key, and as I said, the farmer-based advisory, so that each farm could find the measures that are the most important for their farm to reduce the nutrient loading. And sometimes the measures aren't so costly. It's something that needs to happen in your head, that you realize that, oh, I could do these things differently. It could actually give me savings to reduce fertilization in some parcels, for example, which aren't producing that well. So it definitely can still be sustainable in a financial way also. But of course, then there are other measures that require more money. But I'd say that the advisory and the change, the mental change in the farmer and more knowledge, that's the key.
Thank you. So knowledge and money seems to be a recurring theme today. Edmundas, a perspective from Lithuania.
Yes, I would like to refer to our prominent farmer Erikas Laitzinas example, and really to try to be in his skin and try to take his philosophy, try to imagine ourselves in his place. And I have a long-standing cooperation with Erikas. I think it started 2003 or 2002. But when he called us, I was responsible at that time for designation of Natura 2000 areas in Lithuania. We were selecting places, and he called me and said, I am farmer and I want a Natura 2000 site in my place. It was a surprise for me. I thought this guy might be, I mean, something wrong with. I said, yes, we will, but then he kept calling us, and understood he's hero. So his philosophy is that his farm is not a single source of income for his family, but it's a lifestyle, it's a philosophy, it's something more than just producing and selling. So I think if we have more this philosophy in our minds and more not consumption, not production, not increasing, not getting bigger tractors, not getting more fertilizers, pouring these fertilizers, not in this spinning in this circle which leads to nowhere. When we buy more fertilizers, put more fertilizers on land, when we have more complex approach to the land, then I think we will be able to improve our environmental situation as well.
Okay, thank you, Edmundas. So Mikhail, maybe from a HELCOM perspective, in terms of we've talked now about maybe opening up a little bit more knowledge as well as some potential financial support, but I think also this understanding and maybe spreading some knowledge around in terms of what are the best measures.
Yeah, well, thanks, Cecilia. I think I won't say much new of what was already mentioned, but I think it will be also quite difficult to prioritize and rank what is most important, what is less important. And firstly, I think we already talked a lot about the changing of the mindset, and actually I started also talking about that. Well, we need to avoid of calling agriculture as a polluter, but should also all understand that it is one of the drivers of the regional growth, in fact. And then also start thinking about well, nutrient inputs from agriculture, not as pollution inputs, but rather as losses, and losses is a value lost. So we have to think about, well, how to save this value, in fact, and turn it back into the loop, and thus help farmers also to improve their competitiveness. And then secondly, we should think about the solutions and promote the solutions that are available, that were demonstrated through the projects, through the advisory services, for example, or through different innovative technologies, and spread this knowledge around and promote them with, well, good examples, of course, and, well, we do try to work in that way also, collecting the list of available measures and also providing the information about cost effectiveness and availability and applicability of those measures. And actually we have updated already for the second time the list of such available measures. And that was one of the documents adopted at the ministerial level. And then thirdly, we need to think about providing incentives, but perhaps not only monetary incentives, like well, revising the subsidy schemes and linking them more to cross-compliance. Perhaps it's no longer possible, at least within the next cap period. But perhaps we should provide non-monetary incentives, for example, praising these good examples that Edmundas just mentioned, that we are all aware in the region. And that's extremely good thing that WWF is working on this Baltic Farmer Award every year. So we need more of those heroes to show and demonstrate that this is possible, this is doable, and this can even make some profits.
What is your perspective in terms of trying to get farmers to be able to have these measures on an environmental perspective, but still be able to be very competitive on the market?
Well, I think what we did demonstrates that there are possibilities, and it could be made in quite less cost-effective way than is often thought of. But I would also like to stress, incentives. I think we've done a great job in Baltic Deal and Näring and those kind of projects working with the farmers. But as we said in our last slide, there is also a need for policy instruments giving these incentives. As, for instance, a tax on fertilizers would also make farmers more prepared for a peak phosphorus world. Making money talk through a trade system. We suggested that we try this on a smaller scale to see how it works, and it has worked in Ohio, United States, for instance. That would be reversing the mindset, because suddenly it would be you would gain as a farmer. You would gain for inventing new ways of reducing your nutrients. So those who are good at that, they would profit from such a system, and those who are lagging behind would have to advance, not to lose in such a system. And I think it would be worth trying it. And I would also like to say that it's, I think it's even more urgent to find ways for sustainable agriculture than what's shown in the maps we showed here. Because we have been looking at other scenarios, for instance, Greimas in France. They have made scenarios for agriculture in Europe during the coming century. And they think it's quite probable that agriculture will move from the south of Europe up to the north and east. And that will make a pressure for intensive agriculture. So finding ways to agriculture without having these nutrient loads. Otherwise the Baltic Sea would look much worse than you saw in the worst picture here.
I've said sometimes there is too much cooperation and too much project. It should be better coordinated. But I mean, I believed 10 years ago that could be possible, but I don't believe that anymore. So I think we need something that is not a project and not a political binding cooperation. We have CDSs, we have Vasa, we have HELCOM, we have probably some more I don't know about. Because there everyone sticks to their position. They don't open up, they don't discuss, they protect agriculture or environment, or they protect Poland or Lithuania or Swedish interest or whatever. I think we all know that if we have been in this forum. So I think we need a platform that really could merge all this interest and have more open democratic discussions.
Thank you, Lennart. And then I want to leave the floor lastly to Erika, from your perspective, and I know you've been part of the conference, A Greener Agriculture for Blue or Baltic Sea. From your perspective, how has that been an experience for you, and would you like to participate in these types of forums again in the future?
Taip, aš mielai dalyvaučiau tokiuose konferencijose, kurioje teko būti, bet dabar į tą klausimą norėčiau tiesiog atsakyti. Yra lietuvių kalboje toks posakis iš š spausti vašką. Tai aš noriu pasakyti, kad žemės ūkyje galbūt nereikia to vaško spausti iš š, o proto ribose kartais verta mažinti gamybą. Aš galiu pasakyti savo pavyzdžių. Prieš 10 metų mano ganyklos atrodė vienaip. Dabar jos duoda šiek tiek mažiau produkcijos ir atėjo laikas tarytum tas ganyklas atnaujinti. Aš nekalbu apie pusiau natūralias pievas, bet apie ganyklas. Mes su žmona nutarėme, kad mes nekultūrinsime toliau ganyklų, bet sumažinsime gyvulių skaičių. Kitaip sakant, mažinam gamybą. Tokiu būdu mes tikrai sumažinsim išeigą taršą į Baltijos jūrą iš vienos pusės. Iš kitos pusės mums reikės mažiau dirbti, o pinigų visada užteks, ypač gyvenant kaime.
Okay, so answer to your question about the conferences. The thing is that he gave an example that 10 years ago they decided they had to renew their pastures because of cattle and the herd was increasing, and they were thinking what to do. Shall they replow the grasslands and so on, make them cultural? And then they decided, okay, let's reduce number of cattle, less work, less cattle, but still they can survive.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think as an audience you've been very patient, and I think we are running out of time, but I would like to open the floor if there are any questions. Yes.
Okay, good morning everyone. Honorable speakers, thank you for your speeches. My name is Olga Solotkaya. I represent Baltic University program at Yanko Kupala State University of Grodno, Belarus. I have a comment and a little set of questions which I would love any of you who is interested in answering to do so. Well, I think no wonder for every person present here that the agricultural system which is based on local production is the most beneficial in the means of sustainable development. It's beneficial if we are speaking about shipping the produce, like transporting, about packaging and nutrient-wise, and concerning nutrient runoff too. Here come the questions. First, there is still agricultural specialization of the world. Still some regions of the world produce that type of produce, others the other produce, and we transport it, and here comes the conventional system. How can we here promote this local system of producing agriculture concerning this conventional system? It's quite a naive question, but I'm really curious to see your opinion on that. And the second question is...
Okay, sorry, since I'm just take the one question if that's okay. So who wants to start? Anyone want to respond?
Well, one way is consumer demand. And I think that is happening in Sweden. There are more and more consumers that want to buy locally. So if that would be sort of a new trend, then I think it could be that direction.
I think, I mean, the problem has been more and more, and probably, sadly enough, will it probably increase, that there is very long between the producer and the consumer. And sometimes, as was mentioned, I think by a farmer here, the producer doesn't even know where he's supposed to sell it, and the consumer doesn't even know what he's buying. And I think that's a question of what Susanna said, that there is a need for a more higher awareness in the food chain with the consumer, but also sometimes that the farmer needs to realize that he has a buyer in the other end. Sometimes it's just sold as bulk, if you call it that, and you don't think about you're appearing on a market, that you have a buyer in the other end, who is she or he or both. Yeah.
I just can give one, I think, positive example which I noticed in Lithuania like 3 years ago. When we had our big supermarkets, then they started selling worldwide known brands of different goods, and that was very satisfactory for many customers. But at some stage, something happened in the minds either of these big supermarket owners or maybe customers' demand changed, and then suddenly they started building so-called shops in the shop. Yeah, small shop. If you go to Maximo or Rimi, you will see the village type thing. Then they sell small things. They accommodate, of course, these local products, really certified as ecological organic production, and they accepted these products in their chains, side by side with some other popular products, but still within the same house. And I think this is very good trend, and I don't know whether this is going to develop further, but now almost all big supermarkets are trying to do the same thing. It started from one supermarket, I think it started from Rimi company, and now it is going, it's spreading.
Okay, I will go on to the next question. Is it short?
Well, I have just a bad example, in fact, not a good example.
Okay.
And that's about biomethanol. We are all quite aware that actually most of the raw supply for biomethanol comes from energy crops. And energy crops are efficient if they're brought from, well, Latin America. So we need to have some instruments to reduce the use of these energy crops, for example, for biomethanol production, and I think that the Commission is doing already something on that. And perhaps instead we can also try to provide incentives for new innovative technologies, how to utilize byproducts of the local production, including this excessive biomass. It's either grass biomass or manure biomass. So we need incentives for new technologies also.
Okay, thank you, Mikhail. We had a question here as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Short question. Well, my name is Mads Wolf. I'm from the Nordic Council of Ministers. Also, I'm here in the capacity of being horizontal action leader for the work on bioeconomy in the horizontal action for sustainable development and bioeconomy. And in fact, I do not have a question and I do not have a comment. I have an invitation to take a look at the horizontal action work on bioeconomy, since I think we can deliver some of the answers the answers for some of the questions raised today. One example is that, and we had a presentation yesterday where Knud Tybjerg, who is also working in the Baltic Manure Project, presented an idea on looking at the production and consumption of phosphorus and proteins. Proteins, for example, basically import of soybeans from South America. Could we turn that into a business opportunity and at the same time do something good for the environment? We know that from a FAO report that 45% of the CO2 emission from cow production stems from feedstock production and transportation. Could we lower that emission by starting to have a local production of protein? By using residuals, for example, from the paper industry, that can be turned into feed that can be used in agriculture. And by that we will save transport, we will save the use of rainforest in South America to agricultural land. And we will leave South America with a possibility to produce food to their own people. So just a comment and an invitation to take a look at the work on bioeconomy, and we will have a conference in Stockholm the 11th of December. And if you want to do something, you're more than welcome to join. If you just want to talk and do nothing, you shouldn't be coming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're wrapping up here. I'm sure most of you are very hungry. I just want to, as some concluding remarks, I think it's interesting, as been mentioned by two here, a perspective of maybe you just had a déjà vu that you've been in this building before. Maybe it was different issues then, but I think we've come a long way in terms of some tools have been put in place. Work is going on to reduce the nutrients to the Baltic Sea, and a lot has been done. But I think some of the points that have been taken up today is we can do this in an effective way. Innovations is definitely one way forward. We also have incentives through policies and best practices. So some good examples in the region that can be spread and actually maybe spread wider so that others are adopting it. So really trying to find these good examples. And money. Funding is also important to continue these good projects, which I think have been very good in terms of getting more cooperation throughout the region, which is the whole basis of the EU strategy for this region. So with that, I'd like to thank you, and I hope you've had some insights in terms of how to balance environment with smart business when it comes to agriculture. I would like to ask you all to give a round of applause to our speakers and panelists for today.